you see a lot of talk on some of these other Facebook pages where they like to talk about how many bags they did a day. But I look at that as how much money can I make from the least amount of work, and not in a lazy way, because we're plasterers, you know, we're not lazy. But if you can go out and find a way of spreading a bag or two of plaster and making the same rate some blokes on site spreading 9, you're the winner, not the guy that can put loads and loads on. Every time I see someone posting about how much they've done, I get it because I've been there, but I look from a different point of view now, and I'm thinking, no, how little can I do to maximise the profit?
Good evening, Trial Talk. This evening, we've got a live stream event with myself, Stu Roberts, founder of Trial Talk, and soon to bring on this evening's guest, Rich Wellfair. Now, I know it's a Friday, guys. I know that it's beer o'clock. But before we start cracking open the tinnies, we've got a dose of inspiration for you on Trial Talk this evening. Rich is going to come on and he's going to talk all about his journey through plastering, his experience working as a gypsum plasterer in his younger years, transitioning into the spray plastering arena, and also his new spray coach, online spray coaching system that he's just put together, the Spray Coach. Now, I've put a few posts up with a build up to this. And as you know, Rich has just recently won Plasterer of the Year through Fixed Radio. And it's sort of all based around innovation, really, and future thinking, if you like, within his plastering business. So it's going to be a good guest to have on this evening. Anybody that's interested in just upping their game, if you like, or changing lanes, like I've said on previous posts. If you're interested in switching things up in your plastering business, you might be bored, you might be working for builders or developers, and you're looking to build up your own name and your own brand. We're going to talk to Rich this evening and how he did that, some of the tools and strategies that he's used to target some of the most affluent customers and some of the most prestigious jobs. We've all seen Rich's videos, really, really impressive, and also his some of the jobs that he works on. So without further ado, guys, I'm going to bring Rich on. Good evening, Rich. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good, thank you.
Thanks for joining us this evening, Rich, and parting with your time. Really appreciate it. Excited to have you on Trial Talk. Rich, first question for you. Why plastering? Take us back in time to your late school years, 15, 16, you're about to leave school, you don't know what you're going to do, and for whatever reason you've ended up with a trowel in your hand. Talk about that. How did you get involved with plastering?
My early days getting involved with plastering was working for my dad's building company. I ended up having to be I was given the plastering jobs of bathrooms that were going to get tiled anyway, so it didn't matter. It was really a thankless job. It was just go in there, be busy. And it was a great place to learn. So I got to learn where it didn't matter. And I did enjoy that. So I went on doing that for a while. And then I started to get good at it. And what I noticed, because at the time I was a labourer, back then particularly, you didn't get a lot of respect. So I'd sometimes get passed on between a few builders that my dad would palm me off to. But as soon as I could plaster, they gave you respect because they needed you. You did this skill that they couldn't do. Like, they were builders, but they couldn't do this, and that was it. You realised, hang on a minute, when I do this, they treat me different. So yeah, that was it.
So how long did you work for somebody else for, sort of on the books or casual?
Not long. I was working for my dad's building company on off in between other people he passed me around to from about the age of 16, 17. I had my own business when I was 19.
Okay, that's really young.
Yeah, it was really young. It was probably a little bit early, but circumstances.
Did you feel confident in yourself at that point, your skills?
I was a confident skimmer, but I felt a bit trapped where I was. I felt like it wasn't my show to run. I felt like I had better ideas at times. And that's not knocking anybody, but I had already had my way of doing things, and it was just being knocked back sometimes. And sometimes I would see the plan and the layout of a job, and I would think, I'd do this differently. I'd do. And then when things collided too many times, and I kind of forcefully went by myself, I realised it's in my control now, and I can do things the way I want to.
Okay, so you're working for yourself at this point. You're 19.
Mm-hmm.
You're feeling confident. Why not sort of just continue down the gypsum road? What was it that caught your eye about spray plastering?
I continued doing gypsum for a good few years because it was bread and butter. It was all I knew. I did that up until I was at least 21, which felt forever. But I did that. I was skimming Artex ceilings, bedrooms, plaster 24/7, getting another labourer in. Then they become full-time labourers and subcontract plasterers. And it was skimming everything, bread and butter. And then I felt like at 21, because I'd worked 7 days a week most of my life, that I'd done everything skim-wise. And I seen this machine for spraying plaster. But it was for spraying multi-finish. Me and my naivety just believed everything I was told and assumed, what a great idea, let's spray this product I use every day. It was a terrible idea. It was enough to put you off machines forever. The machine was terrible. The idea was terrible. And it took me years later to reflect back and realise, what was I doing? I didn't ask better questions of myself or the machine. I was trying to spray a product thinking it was going to save me time. In reality, that was spraying for the sake of spraying. It was the wrong product to spray on the wrong machine. But I learned some harsh lessons then, and that was early on before I really got into machine plastering. But
why do you think that is, Rich? Multi-finish. Why is multi-finish a bad product to spray? Is it too thick or?
Because it goes off. It's got a set time. So you've got $7,000 machine, a man that needs to man it, clean it, and bag it. Me spraying, but whatever I spray doesn't mean I can finish. I still require more late plasterers to trowel the finish. So I'm basically just spraying on product for the people that I'm paying to plaster anyway. As soon as one little thing goes wrong, the hose is blocked, the machine's gone off, the plaster's set, you've oversprayed multi-finish everywhere. There's so much, you've just complicated a process so much, when in reality, which we do now with the airless spray plaster, it's ready mixed and it's air dried. That can sit in my machine for months and it'll still be wet. What I learned from this process was I was spraying the wrong product. I just sprayed what I knew.
And you haven't got long, once that multi-finish has worked through that machine,
yeah,
I don't suppose you've got much of a window to get it through the machine, get it on the wall, and then clean the machine out.
And that's it, yeah. So you need a man doing that. But in reality, all you did was put product on the wall with a load more complications involved. Yes, it went on quickly, but you can't finish all that. You need another man. That other man that you're paying might as well put his own wall on. I realised that afterwards, but they were questions I never asked myself when I was younger. And one of the most important questions I never asked at the time, particularly during the sale, was, you show me somebody having success with this machine spraying multi-finish, because there wasn't anybody.
And is there anybody now that you see?
There's a few people that claim to have had some good days. There's nobody out there that does that on a daily. Nobody.
No. So going back a step, again, you're 19, 20, and you started your own plastering business at this point doing gypsum. I want to go back a step, because there's a lot of guys on Trial Talk that might be that age. They might feel like you, like, I want to go and do my own thing. I want to walk my own path. How did you get your business off the ground at that point? Because I know we talked earlier, and you didn't mention internet marketing. You were talking about flyers. Yeah. Can you talk about how you initially got your business off the ground?
So I kind of did it all in one, actually. I had a vision of the vehicle I wanted to drive, a website I'd like to have, a business name. I had it all in my head, and I kind of got it all at once in one aspect. I got somebody that I knew to build me a website. At the time, websites weren't so popular, or they weren't so available. So just by being a plasterer and having a reasonable looking website, I was already miles ahead. So I had the website, I got the flyers to match. Soon after, I got the van that came with it that was a fairly nice one at the time. But the main thing was using the flyers to direct to the website. So I would print off flyers, and I would go around every job I'm on, flood the street when the van's in the road, and we'd go to certain areas. I'd go walking around on quiet days and just posting with the kids. But then I started to target it a bit more. I started to realise there were common problems in Cheltenham on certain houses, such as a sash window wall. The internal render is always damp or blown because it's an old house, it's a sash window, something's happened. So I made flyers up just for this problem, showing the sash window, the sand and cement repair, the reskim, and a price. And I would go around streets with windows like that and post them. And
okay, and did you find by doing that, by tapping into these little niche pockets in plastering, did you find that to be a lot more profitable than, say, working for a builder?
At that time, with the knowledge I had, I don't think I particularly made it more profitable because I wasn't clear on that side of the things at the time. But I definitely won leads, and I was definitely targeting and solving a problem. If I was a bit smarter, I'd have probably made more money out of it by probably charging a premium for that service. But not being clear on the costs, I just charged my normal rate, but kept winning work.
Because me and you had a chat recently, and I told you a little story of my own. Because you sort of put the question to me, why not go down the spray plastering rendering route? And I said I've got a bit of a loathing for rendering. I don't mind rendering. I don't mind a bit of sand and cement, but rendering day in and day out isn't something I want to do, purely based on the amount of times that I'd be rained off. And now, because I've scaled back, it means rebuilding a team. Although you talk about how you can just work with a labourer, which is fair enough. But we were chatting, and I was talking about how when I was young working for builders, I sort of hit a ceiling with what I could earn. So they would be prepared to pay me, I mean, back then, maybe 140, for example, a day, which back then weren't too bad. But just by chance, a friend of a friend, he said to me, look, this guy in Leamington Spa, he's been let down by his spread. And on a Saturday morning, I went round there, and he basically pointed to this ceiling, this customer. He said, that's the job there. I need that sorting. And it was about 1.5 square meters of plasterboard that had been water damaged. And he said, if you can match the other plasterer's price, I'm happy to pay that. And I said, well, what did he charge? What's he coming in at? And he said he could do all in at 490. And of course, I did a bit of basic math on my hand, and I thought, hang on a minute, I'm working for a builder for 140 a day. This guy's come in and he's quoted 490 for chopping out some ceiling, reboarding and skimming, maybe 4 square meters of ceiling. I thought I can do it because I was quicker then. I thought I could do that in like 3.5 hours after cleaning up and stuff. So I said, yeah, I'll match that price, no problem. Done that job in half a day, got paid, walked away with 400 quid. Thought to myself, I'm going to start targeting insurance work, ceiling repairs, blown plaster, penetrating damp, little jobs where I can go out. Instead of working on a fixed day rate for a builder, I can go out there and I can smash out two, sometimes 3 of these small insurance jobs or repair jobs and sort of blow that ceiling price out the water. Is this the idea you had around the spray plastering? Did you use that similar strategy?
I had that idea before the spray plastering, and I also recognised the insurance quotes because we'd be asked to go do it. We knew that if it was under £1,000 a job, they weren't even coming out to assess the damage. So we'd be overboarding the ceiling and possibly repainting it, one-stop shop, under £1,000, easy money. And we go do small repairs, and we started to realise you see a lot of talk on some of these other Facebook pages where they like to talk about how many bags they did a day. But I look at that is how much money can I make from the least amount of work, and not in a lazy way, because we're plasterers, we're not lazy. But if you can go
Don't get me wrong, I was still sweating when I was doing these ceilings, don't get me wrong.
But if you can go out and find a way of spreading a bag or 2 of plaster and making the same rate some blokes on site spreading 9, you're the winner. Not the guy that can put loads and loads on. Every time I see someone post about how much they've done, I get it because I've been there, but I look from a different point of view now, and I'm thinking, no, how little can I do and maximise the profit? So
exactly, and there's also the injuries to take into account as well as the financial gains. There's also the wear on the body, working to the meter. We all know about that.
So talking about niching down on your job, something that I started doing a few years ago. Because I get booked up quite in advance, even if it's 6 months. I pull all my jobs up, everyone wants an accepted quote, and I break down all the material costs, expected labor costs, and expected timescale. And then once it's all divided, I basically ratio them into per week pay, average them if it's a 3 week job or 2 week or 1 week. I just whatever ratio is per week. And as I go down the list, I look for the ones that are much lower or much higher, and start identifying what that job is and what I'm doing there. And then I can start seeing, what do I want more of? Because this one seems to be bigger than the rest. What is this job and who is this person? What more can I find out about this? And it sort of sets me up to understand more when I see the low paying ones. In my head, the price seemed right on paper, the job seemed okay. But when I really do the maths and I compare it to what I'm already doing, it might still be a good job. In comparison, it's not. And I'm there to make the most inside 12 months. And that one goes, something else takes its place.
So you've just put a spreadsheet together, helping lads to cost their work properly. Could you talk about that? Why is it a problem? What a spread's not charging enough?
So that one is more aimed on a personal level, so much than per job pricing. So that one helps people with their personal understanding of their finances, something I took a long time to get clear with. I used to be really bad. I used to get loads of bank charges. The typical, I'm working 7 days a week and not making any money. It's not being clear on your finances. Understanding the true cost. You can think that you could be paid £150 a day and say it's okay, but is it? You're guessing. Get the numbers down on this spreadsheet. Really look into that. Really get those numbers clear, and it will calculate every single thing it's going to cost you just to stand still for a day, and what the true cost is that you need per week to live the life you want. So that would include your personal spending, your savings, and all your bills. And your personal savings, your personal spending is an amount that you allow yourself to guilt-free spend every week. So I have that on a separate card. But then we have our business growth. So you don't just work and work to never grow. Like the business and the things that you do needs to build, cash flow needs to stack. I think people forget that figure and just work for the now. So they go, yeah, we made good money. Good money this week. We're doing all right. But next week, it's back to zero again. No, it shouldn't be like that. If you give yourself a set wage that you non-negotiable with yourself, that this is the only amount I'll take every week, but it's a rate that I'm happy at, you won't keep digging into that. And that can grow. You can live and your bills are paid. Once you're clear on that one figure, you just got to make that figure every week and don't go below it.
Fantastic. In one of my blog posts, there was a chapter, and it basically said wages aren't profit.
No, they're not.
And that's just just a little play on words that I put in the blog. But basically, where that come from is I'd worked with a lot of young plasterers, and we all do it. I'm guilty of this myself. You probably did the same thing. When you first go self-employed, you tend to have an idea of what you used to earn working for the builder or working for your old gaffer. You think to yourself, if I can earn that same amount, pay my bills, then I'm earning good money. But the problem is, like I say, wages aren't profit. Is that 400 quid or whatever it is you've earned, that's just to eat. That's just to pay bills. There's no.
It's something that's missing. It's something that's missing somewhere in education. I remember my first ever job I quoted, and my dad helped me quote it, and he told me to put a figure of like £800. To me at that time, on about 200 something pound a week, was like, what, £800? Like I was thinking all the things I'm going to buy, how great my life's going to be. You know, it was a bit, it was a one-off. That wasn't life. I wasn't clear on the numbers, and most people.
We were not used to seeing that sort of money though as an employee either, are we?
It's a bit like people that get paid monthly and then go, I get paid £1,000, all my bills are £400. I'm loaded. You're not.
Yeah.
And there are
more not factoring in profit either, which is what ultimately is what your business needs. It needs profit so you can move forward. You might need some new equipment. You might want to take on a labourer one day. You might need a new van.
Yeah, and you need cash flow. I've had jobs in the past. I've been offered good tenders, but they want me to do all the materials and whatnot. And I could, if I'd had £20,000-30,000 float, I would have done it and it would have been fine. But where I was at that stage, I didn't have those kind of finances, so they helped me back. You know, you don't want to get to the end of the year and be where you were. Yeah, you've had a great year. Things have been great. You bought loads of shiny items, but your bank account's the same as it was last year. That's not growth, is it?
True. Going back to marketing, Rich. Now you transitioned into spray plastering. What was that what did that transition look like? I know that there's a big outlay for machinery. You talked about how you spent some money on a machine for multi-finish and that didn't work. Why did you still have faith, even though you've seen this not working? What made you pursue it? Why didn't you throw the towel in?
Funny story, actually, one that we didn't talk about. At the time I was into spray plastering, I was looking into it. I was a bit obsessed with it because it was the unknown. It was like, when you see the guys doing it, it was almost like superstar plasterers back then, with all their technical machines and spraying this stuff on us bare plasterers don't understand. And I was obsessed with knowing more. And what I started off doing is subcontracted a spray plasterer to do a job that I won through some marketing. I decided to market for one of these jobs and get a guy to do it. They, at the time, were renowned to being one of the so-called better ones, and were actually dealers of the main machines. They did a terrible job, an absolutely terrible job. And I had another job lined up already. And what ended up happening was I went on to do the other job. I got a bit of training and I got some help from somebody, and I bodged through and I did a good job. So I kind of wasn't planning on doing it. I got let down by who was supposed to be amazing and thought, I might as well do it myself. And I did. And that was it. We got over the line, had some success, and just built on that.
Okay. And was it a case of going to the banks asking for some money to buy machines? Was it bootstrapping or?
Yeah, I didn't need to at that time. I did all right business-wise, and I had some nice jobs. And I think I probably, without being clear on my finances, just went and brought a machine. But if I probably was a bit clearer, I probably wouldn't have brought the machine, because I probably would have been like, there goes your cash flow.
Yeah.
I just did it. Like any purchase in life, you just do it sometimes.
So let's say we've got a couple of members watching now. Okay. They're spreading gypsum and they're really interested in following your footsteps.
Yeah.
What advice, let's say 3 things a gypsum spread could do now to get involved in spray plastering? How much money would they need, for example? And what machine would you recommend?
Well, for starters, money-wise, it doesn't have to be a big outlay. You can hand apply the base coats. You can hand apply all of the systems, to be fair. It's just not the best way to go about it. But you can get started with nothing to say. You can get started from a hand applied. I actually started by spraying when I probably would have been better to start hand applying to get used to the system. So you can start by hand applying these systems. So you don't need to think about machinery going in. And second-hand machinery is, to me, I don't see the need. I like flashy items, but buying a new machine isn't necessary. They all do the same job. I've got a LS Plaster machine that's 12 years old. I've got a PFT Ritmo that's probably 10 years old. It looks battered, but it's doing the same job as a brand new one. And so the outlay doesn't always need to be that on finance brand new machine. I would say, secondly, go work with somebody, go be around someone. So I've got 2 members of my spray coach course coming onto site to work with me in the coming weeks. So I've got Ella Spray Plaster in Worcester and Ledbury, and I've got 2 different members just come in for the experience. And, that's just great. They're going to put themselves on the line, and I'm going to give them some of my time. And I think that's it. It's not always an option for people. Like, people can be a bit closed and don't want you to know what they're up to. But you can find a way in. You can just offer your services, particularly now with the labour shortage. I think there'll be people snapping your hand off just to let you get involved. So
did you spin different plates at one point where you were doing some gypsum jobs,
yes,
a little bit of spray, and then at some point you've just made that divide?
Well, yeah, I would say like that transition is something you'll be familiar with. Is whatever you focus on, it just seems to grow, doesn't it? So,
Absolutely.
When I start, and it happened with this airless plaster too. 1 minute I'm not doing it. Out of nowhere, I've got leads left, right, and centre. That's all I'm doing. That didn't happen by accident. A good example of that. Say when you go to buy a new car, you go to a car garage, you see, say, Range Rover. You leave that car garage. What do you see for weeks? Range Rovers everywhere. They was there the whole time, but now you're seeing them, and that's the same in business. When you're clear on what you want and what you start seeing all these opportunities. They were there before anyway, but you weren't looking for them. And that happens in business. And now you start seeing all these things that you're really focused on. I think that's just what happened to me. I was so obsessed at the time with the next thing and how we're going to do it that these opportunities just became visible.
I agree 100%. And people will often say things like, well, there's no demand for that product or service where I live. Now, did you see a demand for this like top end spray plaster, or was it a case of you become so focused that you were going to make it work that the customers found you? How did you?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think I sold it. I think I sold it through passion and being obsessed with it and knowing the value of it. So I would sort of go to a job and I would talk about a render and show them what else we've got. And because I've been spending so much time online researching, it would just flow out of my mouth, the benefits. And I think I just converted a few people.
Yeah, fantastic. I want to talk about winning Plasterer of the Year through Fixed Radio. How did that come about? Who nominated you? Did they see your videos or?
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you. I know I had an email saying that we were there being nominated and made it into like the last 8. It was the first time I seen an email from them.
I'm guessing they've come across 1 or 2 of your drone videos.
I reckon so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I reckon that's what happened, and because they seem to know enough about me.
Yeah. So was you surprised to win?
I guess so, because there was a lot of other names read there, and they look like they're doing a good job too. And there's a lot of good people out there, but also secretly, I know I've done the work. I've done a lot. I've been doing a lot. I've been chipping away a lot, and trying these new things and really pushing the boundaries in plastering. It's strange, really. I remember saying to my friend, who's a brilliant plasterer, and I said, I just won Plasterer of the Year, and I've not spread multi-finish for 5 years.
And their sort of eyebrows are raising. So going back to finding work quickly before the next question, what does your marketing strategy look like today?
Today, it's very to the point. I call out my target market. I call out who I want to work with. So I've got videos where you'll see me just always walking around talking and saying, are you a developer? Are you a self-build enthusiast? I'm thinking, are you this person that I want to be working for, basically? And that's the theme. So call out who I want to talk to, quickly show them the benefits. And at the end, I will always call to action and say the next step I want from them. I want them to go to my website. So I'll tell them where it is, where to go. Not just a long text with a picture with some scaffolding up saying that we're the best. I'm going to talk to them, identify their problems and solve them, and then tell them where to go next.
So would you recommend video marketing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Be the way forward for anybody now looking to start a new business, video marketing.
Definitely. And I know it's hard at first, and particularly being personal branding. I know a lot of plasterers like to hide behind their logos. I used to be one of them. But people buy from the people, and being regular, content regular. So, for example, if you send someone on your feed who is a dog walker, you'd constantly see them walking the dogs, training the dogs, talking. It's no interest to you into the day that you need a dog walker. And that person's in your mind and you already trust that person. You always feel like you know that person a little bit.
Yeah.
They're going to be top of your list. And even if they are 20% more expensive, the other people are a gamble. This person, you've been seeing them for years, And I think that's where social media works, and being consistent on social media.
So you using that strategy, showcasing what you're doing via video on your socials, and driving traffic back to your website, where you then convert the leads.
And while we're talking about advertising, we were chatting about it a bit earlier. This kind of ties in with the website side of thing. There's a lot of usually the older generation. They almost take a bit of pride in saying, "I don't need to advertise. I haven't advertised for 10 years." It's almost like a badge of honor.
Yeah,
and it blows my mind, because what you need to realize is advertising is your voice to dictate your workflow. It is literally you can dictate your income and workflow by your advertising. By saying I don't need to advertise, it's like saying I'm a plasterer, come at me with all your leads. With me, I'll shut the doors and I'll send out the messages and the jobs I want. They're just taking everything. They're skimming lofts in the summer because they weren't clear on their leads, and they have no control because everyone's coming at them with every problem. We've been like, no, these are the problems we're going to solve for you. Take it away.
I think supply and demand needs to be taken into account when you've got that attitude as well, doesn't it? And of course, if you live in the rural village somewhere and you're the only plasterer in the village, and someone asks around, they say, "Oh yeah, use Bill the plasterer," That's different to if you live in fucking central London and you're
Yeah.
a new plastering business and you're trying to push yourself out there and push past
I
all the
understand.
competition.
Yeah, from the beginning, you kind of do have to take a bit of what you can. But when you're established, if you think about every job you've done and which ones are paying you the best money, and you are quite sure that when we do this type of project, it pays well, then surely the next step would be to market and almost niche down to only do this. If you only did that job all year, you would make 20-30% more money. But
Yeah.
instead, they don't niche down, they don't advertise, they continue to skim a bedroom, render a house, lay a floor, skim a bed. And yeah, fair play, you can do it all and it might bring in money. But if you were sat from a bird's eye view on your business as somebody else, you would think, what are you doing?
Yeah. Rich, the spray coach. I'm going to plug the spray coach for you. How did that come about? And it was a brave decision to go fully online training. How are you getting on? And how did it all come about, the birth of the spray coach?
So when I did some training with Craig Wilkinson, he identified that I seem to know a lot about my trade, and I have got a lot of inboxes for years. People ask me questions for help, advice, and that's fine. But it's so constant, and I start to realize I'm doing such niche things at times that I kind of was like in a select group that knew things, and I felt like I could actually package this up and help people in an organized way, and while still actually make money in a business through it, but doing it, combining what I love, making content, helping other plasterers like get out of where it used to be, if that's what they want, and coaching online. And the idea of that was also to develop as a person, to be more confident, to be on camera more, to do the things that I actually didn't think I'd ever do. So just put myself on the line in a new challenge and thought, let's do this.
Okay. Now you've mentioned Craig there, Craig Wilkinson. Now we chatted about mindset and personal development. I know you're huge on personal development and your mindset. How has that played a part in this journey? And firstly, what was your mindset like before you discovered personal development? Was you a negative person? Is that why you went into personal development, or was it something else that triggered that interest?
Before getting into it, I wouldn't say I was particularly a negative person. I was inconsistent and chaotic. I would work 7 days a week. Then I would drink too much. Then I would go out drinking too much. Because I would work 7 days a week, I would be trying to steal my time back by taking a Wednesday going out drink. You're trying to steal your time back because you weren't living in an organized manner. I was inconsistent. And when I started to work with Paul Moore, he was someone that was on the radar to me. I'd seen his content. The words he spoke always seemed to sit with me and think, it was something that I felt that I could do, but I was a bit scared, to be honest. I was a bit, what people think if you do this or go do that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did have a big moment that changed that was when my mum died. And with everything that happened around that, and it being such a shock and so sudden, I decided to stop caring what people thought. I thought I'm just going to go do something for myself. I initially did it, and yeah, I just got so many benefits from it. And I just kept challenging myself, and they kept challenging me. And it just changed a bit like with Craig. They just ask you questions, and it makes you think. You work things out by yourself. You just get challenged with better questions. How do you want to feel today? What do you want to do? What's the what if only one thing got done today and it was most important to you? What was it? And that might not be work. And you realize that work isn't the most important thing today. Go and work on something else, or do, even if it was exercise, go for a walk. It might sound a bit small, but in the big picture, that was the most important thing for you. And that was going to benefit you more than anything today.
Absolutely. As you know, I'm into the personal development myself, and I got into that maybe early 20s, following a grief that I was going through at the time. I won't go into that. But I suppose I was like you. I was looking for something, some sort of healing, I suppose, just to push past these feelings that I had. And I stumbled on a guy called Brian Tracy, who's a business coach and a personal development expert, if you like. And I read a few of his books. And what I took away from personal development is taking responsibility and taking accountability for your own shit is probably what I took away more than anything else. And to stop playing the blame game, you know, blaming the economy, blaming you know, the suppliers, blaming your wife, blaming your staff, blaming your customers. And it's just about, of course, sometimes they are going to be to blame, but what helps you get through that? And in your case, you've pushed into this, you know, new arena with the customers that you target, is taking accountability for your own shit. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, absolutely. And along with some of those phrases you were using, another common one that people use is say, oh, well, it's all right for you. But if you always say it's all right for you, you know, you're always going to be that person. You're always going to be stuck because you say that. You know, there's people in much worse scenarios than each other. And if we always just point at the finger and just think, yeah, but it's easier for them, it's always going to be hard for you if you just say that. That doesn't move you anywhere. Doesn't move you anywhere. That.
I've heard it a lot. And the truth of it is, most spreads, including me and you, and most spreads watching now, you don't get given any money. None of us have a rich uncle where, you know, you decide to go self-employed and they go, here's 10 grand, you know, or here's 20 grand. We've all started out with no money and we've gone down a path. And I think your attitude can make or break you in a lot of ways, can't it? You can either give up or you can pursue. And you talk about this coaching that you've had. Are you into your books at all? Would you recommend any books at all?
I do. Yeah, I do audio books, and I'm someone that's I've never read a book, but I do audio books. I could recommend Atomic Habits. I find that amazing, and I'm someone that doesn't read, and it's just amazing. The information you take, and from that, I've taken into part, because one of the biggest things that helped me was a morning routine, and we all have one, whether we like it or not. So you might as well make it a good one. And it doesn't mean you have to get up at 5 a.m, even though I choose to on days. Having a set routine in the morning is just sets you up for the day. And a part of mine is doing 10 to 15 minutes of listening to something educational or motivational, whether it's just a quick YouTube thing. If I go for a walk with my AirPods in, just listening to that, it changes your entire outlook for at least the first half of the day at minimum. Hearing these things, they start to take on. And when you start feeding yourself with, it's not just small positive things, it's literally things that might challenge you for the day. There might be messages in some of that audio that just challenges you to be a bit better. And you might have been thinking about taking it easy or letting yourself off. And there might be something in there that just made you question what you're doing for the day. And it just changes your attitude.
You need a lot of motivation to be a self-employed tradesperson these days. I think a lot of motivation. You especially if you're working on your own. Something I've revisited, as you know, the last few weeks. Matt's left. I know that I mentioned you in a recent video. Your wingman left, and the same happened to Cookie and Marcus. Working on your own, especially if you're in an empty property, for example, which a lot of us spreads, we work alone, we work in empty houses. There's no one to bounce off. There's nobody to cheer you up. Self-motivation. If you're lacking in that, you can quickly spiral into, I suppose, a bit of a depressed state, can't you?
Easily, so very easily.
I mean, do you find that the personal development keeps you sort of motivated and keeps your attitude?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it comes down to more the motivation. I think because, as you know, the motivation is temporary. No matter how good you feel about the task at hand, motivation is never going to last. It's literally just a bonus when it comes. When you're clear on your outcomes and clear on your goals, which I do with the work I do with Paul, which are basically daily steps. We've got a 90-day goal or an outcome. We break this down into almost daily steps where you keep score. So when you're keeping score and you've got an eye on the end goal, everything in front of you is just in the way. Yeah, it might be crap work, it might not be motivated, but you start remembering the small statistics and the reasons that you're doing all these steps to get somewhere else. If you didn't have an end destination, I think I'd very much struggle to be motivated and do stuff at work, but you need to find something or some reason that lights you up. So, for example, doing the spray coach, it's a new motivation to go to work. We're going to work anyway, but we're also going to film some content for a course in my building that could take us to this place and to that place. That's enough to get up and go, right, let's go.
Yeah.
Without that, sometimes I question how I'd feel.
Now, you've made a decision to have multiple coaches, 3, I believe. Is it 3 over the years?
Yeah.
Why did you choose to have more than one? Does each coach come from a different angle?
There's different angles, and it's like anything. People are masters in one area. Paul, I learned some excellent business stuff from him. Craig was out and out business and systemization. I was getting snippets of that from Paul.
Yeah.
Craig went all in, but Craig touches on mindset. He's big on it himself, but he touches on it in his group. Paul is all out on mindset, action, no fucks. Big meetups, surround yourself with people on the same journey. So how some people don't understand coaching, and I get it because I guess I never did too. But one way I would describe it is if you were looking to lose weight, we all know how to lose weight. But if you were serious, you'd hire a PT, someone that's been there, done it, and they're educated in it, and they will almost guarantee results as long as you do what they told you to do. And you'd be almost daft unless you're not taking it seriously. You should get a PT. And most people in day to day, they'd accept getting a PT, but not a business coach or a mindset coach or a finance coach or any other form of coach in any area. If I want to improve in any area of your life, then why not go out and get a coach who can help you make the best decisions to get that result? It makes perfect sense, but I think people just struggle to get their head around it, or they take it a little bit personally, as if to say, I know what I'm doing, I don't need help. We all need help.
Yeah.
Coaches have coaches.
We can be proud plasterers sometimes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
Do you think you'd be where you are today without the coaching? Or has it been a necessary part of your journey?
I don't think I would, because I wouldn't have been able to handle situations so well. I managed to learn to keep way cooler, less stressed, get perspective on things straight away. My main thing is to get clear on any scenario, situation. Every week I review my week and I get clear. I'm not perfect, but I get clear again and I get to reset again. And without being clear, you get stressed. You're not sure why you're doing things. A client might be pouring pressure on, and I might used to just let the pressure get to me, where now I turn around and go, you know what? If one thing had to go in my life and it made it 100 times better, what would it be? It'd be that client, regardless of the finances or the reputation. I'm going to ring them up and say, you know what? I'm not coming for another 2 weeks. It does not work for me. If you want to find someone else, that's fine. Often they're fine with it. In the past, I wouldn't dare make that phone call. But once you get a better perspective, you're like, all right, it's going to be hard to make this call. Once you do it, the relief, you're like, I just made my life better by putting my foot down and getting clear on what I need. And stuff like that I learned through personal development. I don't think I would have done as well if I wouldn't have lost my mum, to be honest with you. It's one of those things that people struggle to understand, but it was like a negative gift. If that didn't happen, I wouldn't have felt the need to move and change. I wouldn't have had the drive. I wouldn't have had that underlying feeling to make something, to do something. I would have probably continued as I was, maybe improved on the gradual scale I was, but I just skyrocketed because I stopped caring what people thought.
You said it's almost like you had to change.
Yeah. Because she couldn't go for nothing. She couldn't just die for nothing. So I just felt like I'm the remaining example. So I represent her. So I'm not going to just do crap.
Okay. Now, some of the questions that we've had coming in earlier, I've asked some questions earlier in the week for members. One of them that's been thrown up a lot is work-life balance when you're self-employed. How are you getting on with that area of your life? As all this mindset and coaching and personal development, have you been able to implement some of these ideas into your family life with your wife and your kids and find a balance there with work?
Yeah, definitely. Something I never had before. So with working with Paul, we set 90-day goals. And one of those areas is family. And you've got a fun section, and it's amazing actually, because you've got some people that are brilliant. They always made time for their kids. I didn't. I always used to work 7 days a week, go out drinking every other day. Just not the best in that way. But with this, for example, we would say set a small target for doing 6 events during 6 weeks with my kids once a week. On paper, that's 6 in 6 weeks. It doesn't sound a lot. And then when you plan and you make those happen, if I never writ it down, if I never planned it, they would not have happened. Maybe twice at best. So the way it makes you plan the things that you want to happen rather than just hope that they happen. And that's just follow through a business, blocking out all the weekends on the calendar, make a choice to work on them if they suit me or if I feel like it's financially or the right thing to do. If not, they don't. I never regret being at home on the weekend.
What I've found really hard is saying no to customers up until maybe the last couple of years even. And it's quite a sad situation, and it happens a lot. I see it a lot on Trial Talk, where even if it's on an unconscious level, we're putting our customers before our own family sometimes. And we're like you mentioned about spending time with your kids, we're shoehorning in time with our family around jobs, when really it should be, I mean, if you've been in self-employed 10 years plus, really you should be mapping out all your family time, your holidays, your weekends, your kids' sporting events and school activities. You should be getting them locked into the calendar and working your jobs around your family. That's what I'm making a plan to do that this up and coming year. And with me and my wife have had a sit down and we've said, look, let's get our holidays booked up in advance, the weekends booked up in advance, so that I'm not just pulled left, right, and centre from leads that are coming in. And because obviously it's a balance, isn't it? When you're self-employed, you can't turn work down, but at the same time, you can't let it sort of consume your life and consume your thoughts.
I think if you don't book it in, you book it out. So if you book a holiday in advance, everything has to fit around that. So why not, if you had a blank calendar for the year, why not plan a year that's going to be amazing and make them non-negotiable, whatever way would happen? So I had this in reverse. When one of the first events I didn't go to through personal development, I said I couldn't make this quarterly event because I had to work. And I did have a lot of pressure on that. I said I had to work. And this guy challenged me and said, what if you got sick and ill and you couldn't go to work? What would you do? I said, well, I'd be ill, wouldn't I? He said, you'd manage it, wouldn't you? And I said, well, I'd have to, wouldn't I? He said, so you can. He said, you're just making a choice. And he was right. It did feel like pressure and a lot of pressure from work genuinely, but he was right to say that if I could be ill and I would still not be there and I would still have to make it work, life would go on. So, we do have a choice, whatever it is, there's always a choice.
Okay. Now I know that when you've been promoting this spray plastering, spray rendering and your course, you use a financial example without disclosing your figures, obviously. Has it made a huge difference for you income-wise, moving from being a bread and butter spreading for builders and dotting and dabbing walls and doing extensions, to the work that you do today? I mean, comparing it against what you used to earn, are we talking, double, or is that silly? I mean, how much more money can we really earn doing spray plastering, spray rendering?
Well, if you look at the last time I was spreading gypsum, during that financial year to, I don't know, a year ago, I'd say that was 5 times the income of that one.
5 times?
Just because of what I was doing, the marketing as well, the prices that I win the work at. But there's a ceiling price on skimming. For a builder or a client, after a certain while, they're able to roughly figure out how long you're going to be there, how much the materials might cost. They kind of get to a point, and then they obviously got loads of people to call in. When you do bigger work, like builders, they put big prices in for jobs. There's a lot going on. It's the same with rendering. You're outside, there's scaffolding, there's hacking off, there's products, there's deliveries, there's pallets. There's much more going on. I feel like you're able to charge more with less questions. And that's not to say you're ripping anybody off, but there is less questions about your prices. They are understanding this is a big specialist job. It needs to be done right. It's going to cost a lot of money. But when you come back indoors, particularly if you were like painting a bedroom, in their mind, they're never paying more than a certain price. So there's more money to be made. There's more money to charge, more importantly.
Okay. And getting hold of materials, can that be a challenge compared to, if I open my arms out, I can probably touch a Wix's or a B&Q or a Build Base or a Salco's, within a half a mile of my house. What about your?
It depends how fussy you are. You can get hold of systems in a lot of places now compared to back in the day. But I only use select manufacturers that I only stick with because I'm very fussy and I've watched them perform over the years. I know what works, I know what doesn't work, and I know what just about scrapes it. If people are spending that kind of money, I like to, like I do in my next marketing video, go back 10 years to a project and say, we did that 10 years ago, it still looks great. And I want to be able to do that with everything I'm doing. So I use the best, and there's not usually an awful lot in it figure wise. So I think, why not use the best? And that means I have to order in. Sometimes it can be a pain because I can order a pallet or two, I might run short and there's a bit of a delay. But it's just about getting more organized and experience and just making sure you're slightly ahead with your orders. I've already ordered next week's products yesterday, just making sure
Right.
it's all there.
Okay. Now, going back in time again, if you could have a little chat with your younger self, Rich, along this journey, and sort of course correct yourself, what are some of the mistakes and the pitfalls you had along this journey for the people that are watching? They might be able to avoid the same mistakes.
Saying yes too much. I know that you've got to say yes to get the ball rolling, but I'd say saying yes, and that falls in line with working for family and friends. That's never good.
It's never good.
Their expectations are always low on what you're going to charge. If there's any issues or slight problems, or maybe an argument, whether it's even just from the fact that you gave a quote they weren't happy with, you can damage a relationship. They
Absolutely.
think that you ripped them off just because you wanted £1,000 to do what you knew was £1,000 worth of work. They value it less than that.
It comes back to understanding the self-employed person and the demand that they've got on them and the cost involved in doing what they're doing. Because if you've got a relative or a mate that's employed by a company, for example, they wouldn't be willing to lose a day's pay to come and do you a favour. Yeah. And it's got to work both ways, hasn't it?
Another example of that it was quite a nice moment a couple of years ago. I went to a site, the guy rang me up to do silicone render. When I first started getting into it, I was a bit keen to want to do it. He come down, he showed me this big property. He said he had 10 of them. And he told me some other lads had come down and they were charging something like £40 a metre. I knew already I was at the £60, £65 a metre at that time. And I started telling him my prices, and he said, yeah, but he said, I've got 10 of them. Old me would have been like, there is 10 of them. But I knew different now. When I turned around to him, I said, that's the problem. I said, you've got 10 of them. I don't want 10 of them at the wrong rate. And I walked away and he was like mouth wide open, like, I can't believe you're not doing the job. But old me would have done it. I'd have said, yeah, but there's 10 houses. Like, I'll make the money up. You won't. It's just 10 times the problem. So,
now, I want to talk about your wheels, your van.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys on the group and they're a bit jealous of the Transit Custom. How did it come about? Because I know it was a big goal of yours. You sort of had that vision where you set that as one of your targets. I'm guessing it cost you a few quid, and you worked towards getting the finances together to crush it and get that van. What was you driving in your early days?
Well, I was quite lucky. In my early days, on the way from my dad, as soon as I passed the driving test, he chucked me in a big tipper, which was crap to park in a new build estate, crap to have bags of multi-finish on the back when it rains. You have to put them in the front with you and all your tools. But then I quite quickly got a Renault Traffic. It was quite a nice van. It was black. It was exactly as I said before. I've envisioned it. I've told someone a story the other day. I was working with a Polish guy when I was a labourer, and I told him that when I'm older, I'd love to have a black Renault Traffic and a blue a Vauxhall Vectra SRI. I was only young. I seen him about 5 years later. I had the van and the car. I was going down to the gym and he seen me there and he came up to me and he recognised me. I didn't recognise him. He's like, oh, you made it. I said, what do you mean? He's like, you got the van and you got the car. I was like, you're right, I have. Didn't even realise it. But because I was fixed on what I wanted and exactly what it was going to look like, I just went after it. And it kind of seems to happen because you're so clear on what you're trying to achieve. And it was the same with that van. Or the van after that and that van. I knew I wanted to get a standout marketing tool. I wanted to look absolutely brilliant. I did my research. I mapped out a long plan on how I can go about it by looking at my jobs and my finances. Just took the small steps and just grabbed it at the end.
it's really eye catching. It's a lovely looking van. Are you as disciplined on the inside as does it look as good on the inside as it does on the outside, or is it like someone's thrown a grenade in the back and closed the back doors?
Yeah, that's the back, definitely. The front's good. I'm pretty disciplined. I get it validated every 2 weeks. That's unheard of for me in vans. But the back,
That is disciplined.
the back is 1 minute it's spray render, then it's spray plaster, then it might be spray paint, and it's just machine tool. Yeah, I should have went for a bigger van, but I said it wouldn't have looked as cool. So
right, we're going to wrap up shortly, Rich. But I put a post out on the group earlier, and it was just asking the question: what do you find hardest about self-employment? And I thought that would be a better strategy than getting them to think of things off the cuff while we're chatting away. So I'm going to scroll through, and if you don't mind, I want your thoughts on some of these challenges that us plasterers face being self-employed. Yeah. So Carl Thomas Leeton is saying that he struggles switching off when getting home after work. Is that a challenge you have, Rich?
It is and it isn't, because I don't think you ever switch off from anything. You just switch on to something else. So it's just choosing what you're going to switch on to.
Good answer. Good answer. What about taking holidays? Marcus Barron is commenting, taking time off is something he struggles with. We touched on this earlier about pre-booking holidays in around work.
That would be the answer, because I spent most of my working life being somebody. I didn't go abroad till I was 30. So I didn't have a passport till I was 30 years old. And
really?
I just work. I'm 35 now, and I've been like 3 or 4 times since. But the only way that happened was by putting some momentum on it and some action, and booking it and telling people in the diary. It just has to be booked in. It has to be put in there, non-negotiable. Put some money down so you've got some skin in it, so it's happening. Even if it's 6 months or 12 months in advance, get some cash together, pay a non-refundable deposit, and you're going to make it happen.
Customers wanting prices over the phone. Neil Bradley. When they forget to tell you where they forget to tell you they live on the 5th floor of a block of flats without lifts, live in the city centre where there's no parking. Oh, we've all had them dramas. Not been able to park your van on the jobs. Nothing worse, is there?
No, I think that one falls under. I took a look at those questions earlier, and I think Danny said something similar, basically quoting jobs that you don't win, and that falls under the same category. It's quite an easy fix, particularly when you're a bit more established. They're not vetting the clients. Yes, they want the answer on the phone, but you would direct them back or answer questions on the phone. So from my website, you won't be able to book me to do a job I don't want to do, because you'll go on my website, you'll have to put in your budget, your time scale, your area, the project type. You're basically qualifying to get through. There's no budget under £1,000. So okay. I'm not going to take a small job. But I'm clear on my figures too. So why would I? That's why. And that's kind of them not vetting their clients. So even if they come through, I say, okay, can you just send me a photo of the outside of your property? I'll give you a vague idea on what the cost is likely to be. Yeah. And if that works with your budget, then I will arrange a meeting and I'll come meet you. I'm just taking out all the tire kickers and saying, give me as much information as you can. I will try and find a figure from that information that I won't be held to. And if that sounds like it's in your budget, then I will come to meet you. And it took a while for me to get my head around it. But once I've done it, I've probably had so many people not come back, not send a photo or not. But that's cool. They were never my clients anyway. They were time saved. And then the few that still say, yeah, that's fine. I know I'm onto a winner, and I go meet them. They already roughly know the cost. This person can definitely buy from us.
It comes back to adding systems in again, I suppose, doesn't it?
It does. You don't have a system. You need an on-paper system that you can vet verbally on the phone. Ask these questions: budget, area, location. What would this figure sound like to you? Should I come out?
Steve Smith struggles with his paperwork, his books, keeping the paperwork organised. He said he's undisciplined. I suppose that again, that'll come back down to your personal development and getting that discipline hat on. what are you like with your books? If you just hand everything over to the accountant, or?
Well, there's a never easy fix for that one. There's an app called Dext. It costs £20 a month. You take a photograph of every receipt that you have, and it automatically uploads it, saves it. You can bin the receipt, it's got it. And if you've got digital accounting like Xero or QuickBooks, it will automatically upload it for you with all the data. So rather than stacking them, every time you buy fuel, take a photo of it, you can chuck it. Travis Perkins, photo, chuck it, and it automatically stacks and files. If not,
Absolutely.
I'd dump it
Yeah.
on my account.
Receipt Bank's another one, isn't it?
That's what it was. It changed names, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, because my accountant recommended Receipt Bank. Didn't realise it changed names. Neutron struggles with saying no to customers. I think we touched on this earlier. Once you've got your target customer locked in, if you know who they are, anyone that isn't that person, you can easily say, well, you're not my target customer.
Or it just means being brave every now and then, and even when they might be a target customer, but the circumstances aren't working for you, and that part of you when you start a business says yes to everyone. Once you start to get more established, you need to quiet that down a bit now. You need to start saying no. Someone could come to me with the best job in the world this year. I haven't got time for it. It would kill me, but I'd be brave and say no, or be really honest and say I can next year. I'm sure you can't wait. Every now and then they say, you know what, we've had a look around, we've come back, and we will wait. But ideally, just be braver and say no, based on your circumstances, not what your head's telling you it's a great job, but in reality you can't fit it in. Say no.
Awesome advice. But I don't want to take up too much more of your time, Rich. We're creeping past 8 o'clock now, and I've got a cold beer in the fridge with my name on it. I'm sure you have as well. Before you shoot off, future plans for Rich. What are your future plans? Where are you going next?
It's a big question I've been asking for a while. But like when I first started with the spray plastering, it was unknown. There was like a horizon. I didn't know what was over it. I wanted to know more. I've done that. Yeah, I can continue, and there's always things to learn. But I want to learn more about marketing, content, visual effects, and things that just interest me on a hobby level that I bring into my business. But there's so much I don't know, and I want to get obsessed with something again and see how far.
I have to say, Rich, and I think everyone who's watching would agree, your videos are top level, mate. Next level videos. How long did it take you to learn to fly these drones and learn the different cameras and all the rest of it, and the editing software?
It's been a steady pace. If I look back on my YouTube channel, it's like a wheel of progression. You just see the gradual increase, and that's all with anything, isn't it? Just get the reps in. Just go out and shoot. Just go out and plaster. Just go out and train at the gym. Just keep doing things, and you just get better, don't you?
Fantastic. Rich, it's been a pleasure. I've looked forward to getting you back on here again, if you wouldn't mind parting with your time again. Lots of value there, guys, on how to grow a business, market your business, change lanes, mindset. I hope you can watch it back. If you've missed it tonight, it's going to be saved on the group, and I'm going to put this on YouTube as well, guys, on the Trowel Talk YouTube channel. Rich, on behalf of myself and Trowel Talk, a massive thank you again for your time this evening. Have a fantastic weekend, buddy. Go and crack over a cold one, and we'll catch you on the next live stream.
Cheers, Stuart. Thanks for putting it on.
Cheers, Rich. See you later, guys. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.